This one hurts. This is just as painful as the ulcer on the inside of my lip. This is absolutely ridiculous. Once again, the gaming community has been graced with yet another disappointment. An unreleased video game that is set to just absolutely blow your expectations out of the water and leave you with something so sparkly clean and perfect that you'll be talking about it for decades to come. However, as the gaming industry continues to prove, video games do not get released completed. That's right, I am today talking about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, as those two games have just released recently on Switch. It's looking like the last 48 hours have been absolutely hell for Game Freak, as they have yet to even tweet anything out, as their game has received hundreds of thousands of complaints to do with game glitches, the game crashing, little harmful bugs as well. There's definitely a huge problem with this game. A main one being its performance. There seems to be a memory leak at the moment with the game in the current state that it's in, which is basically causing people's frame rates to completely plummet when they go into a populated area. The problem is with this game as well is when the performance seems to take a hit, it doesn't just lose frames. A lot of the time it seems to be like just basically turning off certain aspects that you're looking at. So for example, the foliage might just all disappear, or it will just change the lowest resolution LOD and basically just leave you with this. There have been multiple threads on Twitter basically showing off all these glitches because there are literally thousands of them and they're all receiving upwards of 100,000 views and beyond that. It's quite a worry. I think Game Freak have quite the bonfire on their hands that they don't really want to deal with right now. It's a shame because this game is a follow-up from Pokemon Arceus, which is awful, which is also a follow-up of Pokemon Sword and Shield, which once again was also awful. We also had Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes, which you can't, I guess, fault too much because they said it was just going to be the game, but like patched up a bit and given a new look of paint. But realistically, like it wasn't that good. It was just basically this same like let's go Eevee and let's go Pikachu sort of style with the same Pokemon and story and location as Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. I think people would have rathered it look exactly the same as Pokemon Diamond and Pearl with maybe some polished graphics. Because like back then you couldn't have better graphics than that on the DS. So give us what you would have given us if you had this power the Switch has for Diamond and Pearl. That's all anyone ever wanted. I mean, they would have been happy with just the flat game, just literally ported to the Switch. People would have been happier with that. But no, they had to fuck with it, didn't they? They had to ruin it. I mean, Sword and Shield was a disappointment for me at least. I just did not get on with that game whatsoever. It looked terrible and it played terrible. I hate this whole idea of like fake open worlds. I mean, I don't like the whole open world mechanic that we always seem to lean on whenever a game is basically terrible. It's like if a game hasn't got any features, one thing these game developer companies seem to just like really clutch to is the term open world. You'll see it whenever a game has decided to go open world. All they ever mention is that it's open world every single day. And it's because it's worked for GTA 5. I think that's literally the only reason why people do it. If you look back at the announcements for GTA 5 back in the day, every trailer, every interview, every headline mentioned that it's open world, which is basically exactly what's happened with this game. Arceus was supposed to be open world, but people had very, very massive problems with it. I mean, the fact that the foliage density in itself was horrendous. There were like massive mountain ranges, like 3 trees, because the Switch apparently couldn't render that in. A literal joke, because the Switch can literally play Xenoblade Chronicles, and Xenoblade Chronicles looks fantastic, and that is literally on the Switch. I mean, Splatoon, I mean, that's a more simple looking game, but I mean, that still looks better than the latest Pokemon games, I can't lie, and it runs perfectly fine. It sounds like Game Freak just aren't really caring about their games anymore. It sounds like they're all just going for the cash grab, which is sad, because Pokemon is probably one of the most well-known and well-respected game franchises in the industry. So it doesn't make any sense as to why they're just not really bothering their game and just basically introducing random Pokemon and thinking, oh, that's fine. We'll do that. If you keep doing this, people are going to stop buying your games. It's as simple as that. I'll be really interested to see what Game Freak have to say about this, because realistically, what can they say other than they let their audience down? They didn't think to QA test this game, because that's the real problem here. They definitely did not get this game QA tested, like, at all. I dare you to try and argue with me that this game was QA tested. There are bugs in areas where there should not be bugs. There is a Pokemon that you ride in the game. It's like a motorbike thing. And this bug happens sometimes when you ride it. How is that not QA tested? It's like the one main thing the player is going to be doing. There's also many, many glitches, which basically involve whenever you're catching a Pokemon. Now that must be the most QA tested thing there is, second to the motorbike thing I just mentioned. Catching a Pokemon is inducing performance issues and weird graphical bugs and like camera glitches that just make no sense. Like the camera is randomly offsetting into just random places. In some scenes I've seen it just focus on a tree and there's like speedline overlays over the tree. And I don't mean the tree Pokemon Sudowoodo. I mean literally a fucking tree. There's ones where the game drops like 12 FPS, then crashes. There's ones where you try and use the selfie camera mode and it literally no clips you, flies you up in the map, then drops you. It is very scary to think that this game is not only releasing at full market price, but it's being released to the Switch and is coming out like this. I still think iPhones could run these games better than the Switch can. And do I blame the Switch? A little bit, but at the same time, other developers are pushing out games that aren't even officially like, I mean, Game Freak should know how to make a game for a Nintendo console better than anybody else. We should be seeing fantastically flawless games from Game Freak. There should be no excuse. There should be no excuse. They were above everybody else on the DS, on the, I guess not the Wii, but there are so many consoles where they just absolutely dominate the market. And it wasn't even about the graphics and stuff. It was just the way the game played. It was bug-free, it was flawless. And here we are with a game that is literally not even in an alpha stage. This is up there with Cyberpunk and Battlefield. That's how disappointing that this is. And to get into it as well, I made a tweet basically saying how I'm fed up of the fact that game developers seem to think it's okay to release a game completely unfinished for full market price, and then as they're saying sorry to you and then they're gonna update it, the update that comes out involves a battle pass that they expect you to buy. I feel like that is the biggest backhanded slap in the fucking face that they can do to their consumers, because that is not fair. You cannot expect people to already pay way too much money for your unfinished piece of shit to then basically say, well, here's the fix for it. There's also something here if you want to buy it. Just give them that content for free. Where would that hurt? Would that hurt? Like a Battlefield 2042 season that comes out and they're like, look, we think the game's in a good state. Everyone should come try it out. We'll have a free weekend where you can all try it. And the battle pass will be free, so you'll get a bunch of content that you can keep as well, like gun skins, operator skins, all that stuff. But no, they can't do that. They can't do that. Why? Because they're run by EA, which is a money-hungry company. You know, EA, they do send me their games for free, but I have to admit, the games I've received from them have made me more depressed than any game has ever made me feel. Star Wars Squadrons was given to me for free by EA, and I got it a day early. I love that game. That game was fantastic. It was missing a lot of content and needed a lot of fixes, but with a team that cared, it could be done very easily, very quickly, because it had such a huge volume of content and such high fidelity models and things like that. It had a lot of good attention to detail, like the way the shields worked for certain ships, the way the blasters worked, the way the ship felt when you were moving it. The cosmetics were pretty damn good as well. You could have like little charms and like in the windshield and stuff. You could play first person, third person in VR. That was it was a great game. And not even a month into the game, they had already practically announced that they were not going to be doing any big update to this game ever again, other than maybe adding paid DLC. But not maps, just in-game cosmetics. That was it. And that was a pretty much like, I think it was like £30-40 game. And that is how they repaid people. And even myself getting it for free, I felt cheated and scammed. It was a real shame to see that. Once again, EA using a big title like Star Wars and just rinsing your wallets and basically going, oh, that game you bought? Well, it's dead in the water. So, yeah, that was nice. Straight out the gate as well. Which I fear is going to start happening with Pokemon games, which I kind of feel like it has happened with Pokemon games. Pokemon Arceus was literally around for like, I mean, the day it came out, people were quite excited about it, and then I didn't really see anything about it since. So I'm guessing the game was just forgotten about by Game Freak and the players. But for some reason, people are still buying these games, and it's a shame. Call of Duty, that released unfinished, and then they were like, well, Season 1's coming soon, and, you know, there's a paid battle pass. Right. They still haven't ironed out half the problems with that game. There are still game crashes. There are still weird graphical issues going on with certain graphics cards, which I understand is difficult to beat, and they are dealing with it very, very quickly and are being transparent as well, unlike other game developers. It's a real shame. We got Halo as well, the biggest game literally was supposed to be the biggest game in 2020 and 2021, and it ended up being the biggest literal joke in gaming history, second to Cyberpunk. It's actually insane how unfinished and how lackluster that game is. I swear to God, there is no developers on that game. If you are watching this video and you work on Halo, you don't, because there is nothing coming out for that game at all. They added a Forge mode recently. I've seen 3 tweets about it. I follow about 100 people who play Halo all the time. No one wants to talk about that game anymore. It's that much of a disappointment. But that brings me back to Pokemon. An absolute disappointment. It's a real shame to see games released on the Switch and still be awful. It's another reason. It's another thing to just basically back up my case that I literally bought a Switch for Smash Brothers, and that is it. It is it's sad because I like the Switch. It's fun. I've enjoyed playing Animal Crossing on it. I've enjoyed playing Smash, but they just leave you with like almost nothing. That console was pretty much groundbreaking for the gaming industry. A bit of fresh air, but it fell through, and that's why the Steam Deck is doing so well, because there's actually games on it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little rant about gaming. I'm very, very passionate about this shit, and it has been a trend at the moment to release games for so much money and give you so little. It's like the games back in the day that you could literally get in like the PlayStation 2 Classic section for like a tenner would have thousands like of more features, like game modes, characters, things to unlock, things to grind. Nothing now. It's a real shame. So let me know what you think in the comments about the state of gaming at the moment. If you are a Modern Warfare 2 gamer, there's a link, there's a tweet in the description. If you go over to it, I'm giving away a Burger Town skin, which is basically an operator skin in Call of Duty that a lot of people have missed out because it's region locked. That's what Activision told me, but it's not. Any region you're in, I can give you the code if you just enter the giveaway on Twitter. Yeah, all right. I'll see you later, guys.